I just started it. Custom stream wasn't ready. Haha, custom stream wasn't ready. I'm testing it. So I'm going live now again. Pranjal, anyone is here, I'll share the stream signal. They can be stand on the group. Vishagan couldn't make it ready. That's okay. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So we welcome everyone for today's discussion on NOI. Let's begin with offering prayer. Om Jnanatimandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatadi Shatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Nana Shastra Vichanek Nipano Sadharma Samstapakam Lokanamitakariנו Tribhuvane Mahanyo Sharanyakaro Radha Krishna Padaravindra Bhajana Nahandena Mattalikayo Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghujago Shri Jiva Gopalakam Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghujago Shri Jiva Gopalakam. Hare Krishna. So welcome everyone. And as I said at the beginning, kindly excuse me, we couldn't kept our continuity. The follow-up schedule also I'll let you know by tomorrow. But we will not have every day, would have thrice or maybe 3 times or 4 times in a week only now. That's also more than enough, I guess. We have other classes or subject matter to also accommodate. So we are reading from the text one. Let's recite the verse. One of my goal would be while we are studying this is while studying only let's memorize these verses. If not, at least first 7 verses are very, very important verses. And verse memorization is very important when our mind is a little bit distracted, which is quite prone to the material contamination. At that point of time, this mantras or the shlokas really help to tune our mind to the right direction. Everyone, repeat after me loudly. Vachuvegam manasa krodavegam Jivavegam udarupashtavegam Etan vegan yo vishaheta dhira Sarvam apimam pratvim sashishya. Yeah, you guys sound like sleepy. A little more louder. The best way of memorizing is, if not anything, just do alert, attentive repetition. You get the mantra. That's it. Vachavegam manasa krodavegam Jivavegam udarupashtavegam Etan vegan yo vishaheta dhira Sarvam apimam pratvim sashishya. So, reading the translation, a sober person who can tolerate the urge to speak, the mind's demands, the actions of anger, and the urges of the tongue, belly, and genitals is qualified to make disciples all over the world. So, we have discussed this before also. Just a quick recap about it. These are the chosen, like in Bible, we have 10 commandments. You can call it for bhakti. These are the 11 commandments. This is, for example, Shivananda, not Shivananda Sen, but Shivananda from Rishikesh, Divine Life Society, who has written a lot of wonderful books on brahmacharya. He also writes like 10 commandments for brahmacharya life. Those are like things you need to remember and practice. Similarly, in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Shri Krishna also gives his commandments, the 20 items of knowledge, 18 or 20 items of knowledge. Like that, this is the essence for a sadhaka to remember, not to forget. You memorize nothing or anything or everything, but this book should definitely memorize. This shloka should definitely memorize. This is about our practice. So the very first thing Srila Rupa Goswami is talking about is to urge, vega. Vega means urge. He's asking us to tolerate 6 things. Vachaha, urge to speak, manasaha, mind, krodha, anger, jivaha, which means urge to eat, udar, the needs of the belly, upashtavegam, the needs of the genitals. So here Srila Rupa Goswami is talking about controlling 6 urges. The very first question that should come in our mind is, why do I need to control, or what is the need of this topic to control the 6 urges? So I have said this many times before. Bhagavad Gita is a yoga shastra, teaching about different practices of yoga. Generally, people recall Patanjali Sutras as Yoga Shastra, but original Yoga Shastra is Bhagavad Gita. Well, that's not the point. The point is, on any path of yoga, there is one practice that you need to do. Does anyone know what is that? Whichever path you are. Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga. Ashtanga Yoga is also called as Hatha Yoga and Dhyana Yoga. That's a part of Ashtanga Yoga. And Bhakti Yoga. There is one thing which binds all of them together. Well, 2 things. One is the yoga, connection with the Supreme, no doubt about it. But that is the goal. But what is the practice which binds all of them together? One thing that on all the yoga path you have to do it. Anyone? Sense control. What else? Mind and sense control. That's the answer. Not sense control only. Mind and sense control. Therefore, we see there's so much discussion on mind control in Bhagavad Gita. And based on that, we have our own mind management series, the course that we are running or that we have designed. So, controlling 6 first instruction. So controlling 6 urges, if we control the 6 urges, it actually directly, indirectly controls our mind and senses. Okay, now mind and sense control is very important. Then Srila Prabhupada raises a point in the purport, right in the beginning of the purport. Prabhupada begins the discussion from atonement. Now, why Prabhupada is talking about atonement? What's the logic behind it? There's nothing about atonement mentioned in the verse, isn't it? It's about controlling the urges. Why Prabhupada begins his purport with atonement? The reason is simple. If you fail to control your mind and senses, atonement has no value. Atonement has no value. And therefore, Prabhupada gives 4 different case studies. First, he talks about the thief. Although he knows he would be punished, yet he goes and steals. So sending him into punishment, prison house doesn't really solve the problem. It's not that he's atoned and he's reformed. Generally speaking, they become more hard criminals when they go to prison house. They they get a nice sadhu sangha there. So whatever is remaining in them, they develop the qualities there. And Prabhupada also gives an example of a church goer. Remember last time we read this, Prabhupada says, they go Monday to Saturday, they go to church, and Sunday they commit sin, and they say, okay, Jesus, let us be forgiven, I have committed. So they confess. So these kind of atonements does not make. And the third example Prabhupada says is of elephant bathing. Elephant goes and take bath, comes out, and he puts some mud. Now, very interesting analogy this is given, because for elephant to take bath, it's a long process. Even if you have an elephant as a pet animal for yourself, well, you would not have it today, but in those previous days, kings had it. To bathe an elephant is a huge endeavor, isn't it? Huge body to really bathe him up. But for him to make himself dirty by the dirt is very simple. Just once he had to sniff it, karke apne upar, he has to give a shower, and you're dirty again. So the whole, that's the reason very beautiful. This whole example of elephant is given. The process of atonement is like this. It takes a lot of effort, but for one to fall down to sinful activities is very easy. So like that few examples are given. Therefore, Prabhupada begins the discussion between Parikshit Maharaj and Sukdev Goswami, quoting from the 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, talking about Parikshit Maharaj making a question. So what is the use of atonement? If you still gonna perform sinful activity, you perform sinful activity because of uncontrolled mind and senses. And you perform atonement. Despite doing an atonement, you still perform sinful activity, which means the right atonement is which gives you the ability to control mind and senses. Getting the point? So right atonement is which gives you the ability to control mind. That's the whole idea behind. That's how the purport begins. So if you are wondering, why Prabhupada is starting about atonement? So Prabhupada wants to bring us to a point to understand what is the best atonement by which our mind and senses can become controlled. Because once the mind and senses are controlled, there's no question of committing a sinful activity again. That is how your whole discussion begins. And therefore, Prabhupada talks about it, and the best way, quoting the Parikshit Maharaj Sukdev Goswami, the best way is, Prabhupada quotes Madhya Lila. Wait a second, I just went a little too ahead. Yeah, this is okay. So if you see, Prabhupada says on the 5th page in my book, this is on the 2nd or 4th page of the purport, Krishna Surya Samaha Maya Hayadakara Yaha Krishna Taha Nahi Maya Radhikar. Krishna is just like the sun, Maya is just like darkness. The sun is present, there is no question of darkness. Only Krishna is present in the mind. There is no possibility of the mind being agitated by Maya's influence. The yogic process of negating all mental thoughts will not help to try to create a vacuum in the mind is artificial. The vacuum will not remain. However, one always thinks of Krishna and how to serve Krishna is best. One's mind will naturally be controlled. So that's what we have discussed. And while discussing about this, Papa talks about tapasya. Tapasya is nothing but atonement in English. And there's also a discussion about 4 types of intelligence. Anyone remembers what are the 4 types of intelligence? One learns by hearing. That is the highest intelligence. Okay. What is the next level of intelligence? Second by seeing. Okay. What else? Third, he undergoes an experience. Fourth, example, Dhritarashtra. Example, Duryodhana. Isn't it? He saw, he heard, he saw destruction of his family. He underwent suffering after the death of his sons. Yet, he was eating the remnants thrown by Pandavas. He did not thought of renouncing. Now, renunciation was not an option. It was a culture then. Please understand. So it was but a natural choice for him to go away. It's not that it's, maybe once in a while somebody will do that. Everyone would do that. Rajarishis, all the kings will do that. But he didn't go. So he's an example of first class intelligence. Anyways, so that's the thing. And then we had a discussion where Prabhupada begins to talk about, the urge to speak like that, and then how to control anger, mind control. Prabhupada will talk later on. So what would be right in anger? Anger is something which cannot be controlled, but anger can be dovetailed. So Prabhupada writes at the end of it, anger is controlled, however, when utilized in the service of the Lord. Which means if we see Vaishnava devotees are being, the Lord being offended, that's the time we become angry. Not the way. That is sanctioned utilization of anger. Just like a military officer is given a AK-47. He is allowed to use as many bullets when he's on the battlefield. And that too also he gets a command. Shoot! Stop! And after the command is given stop, and again he shoots even one extra bullet, he's held accountable for it. ओए क्यों शूट करा? 8 बजे 2 मिनट पर तेरे को बोला था stop, and I have a record that 8 o'clock at 3 minutes 45 seconds you shot one more bullet. How did you? They can get court martial for this. They can get court martial. Remember the case where an empty BrahMos missile was accidentally launched from Rajasthan somewhere? It landed in the Pakistan. Remember that, right? I don't know how many times, but it happened once. And for that, individual who misfired, whatever happened there, I don't know where the projectile was meant to be. He was put into the court-martial thing. I don't know what exactly happened. So it's a very serious thing. So like that, anger is control, how when utilized in service of the Lord and otherwise. And then we talked about tongue also, Jibba Begum or no? Okay, so let's start reading from Jibba Begum. Agni, you can plot that part of the puppet on the screen, if possible, for the sake of others. Perfect, you're on the right place. Okay, let's hear. Krishna Chandrabu, would you like to read? As for the urges of the tongue?
Tongue, we all experience.
Wait. Agnal Baba, there is sound though, bhai. We can't hear the sound. You have to just check your audio. Check in the Zoom. Is it correct? Krishna, would speak up a little because we can't hear.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, now the sound is coming. Yes, please go ahead.
As for the urges of the tongue, we all experience that the tongue wants to eat palatable dishes. Generally, we should not allow the tongue to eat according to its choice, but should control the tongue by supplying prasad. The devotee's attitude is that he will eat only when Krishna gives him prasada. That is the way to control the urge of the tongue. One should take prasad at scheduled times and schedule not eat in restaurants or sweetmeat shops simply to satisfy the whims of the tongue or belly. If we stick to the principle of taking only prasad, the urges of the belly and tongue can be controlled.
Hare Krishna. Any thoughts from anyone? Prabhupada is making point. How do you control the urge of Jivva Vekam is being discussed here? The urge to eat, only eat in Govindas. If you ever feel like eating in a restaurant, only eat at Govindas. No, that's not the point Prabhupada said. Prabhupada said only eat Krishna Prasadam. And what is Krishna Prasadam? Which is cooked by devotees, which is served by devotees. Not that anything which is offered. If it is offered to the Lord, there are so many people offering. We don't accept it, right? So now to eat in Govindas or not, I leave it on to you to decide. But Prabhupada is saying, eat Krishna Prasad. Oh, Krishna Chandrabu is smiling, full bliss. Okay. Yeah, you can eat in Govindas if it isn't cooked by devotees. No doubt about it. For example, in Pune, if you want to eat, you can eat from Madhuram, right? Madhuram we have behind? Yeah, so Madhuram you can eat because that's been cooked by brahmacharis. That's all cooked by brahmacharis, so you can have that. But okay, once in a while is all right. Once in a while. Not that every time you go to temple, Govindas. Which Govinda? Not Radha Govinda. Outside Govinda. The temple ke bahar wala Govinda. So I remember we took recently our teenagers, right? When teenagers were there. So right in the Guru Puja, Prabhuji Govinda. Everyone, Govinda, Govinda. I said, yes, Govinda there. सामने Govinda, Govinda. मुझे देख के क्या Govinda, Govinda कर रहे हो? बोलो प्रभुजी, not that Govinda. मैंने कहा, which Govinda is there now? बोले प्रभुजी, Govinda outside the temple gate. चुपचाप बैठ के आरती अटेंड करो. Okay. And very interesting thing, of course, this is not my subject matter, my plan to really delve into details, but I'm just going to give it some clues for all of you to think. Details we'll discuss in our Bhakti Shastri program. Prabhupada said two things. One, we should eat Krishna Prasad. And what is the second thing Prabhupada says here?
Apply.
What is the second thing Prabhupada says?
Supply prasad to
Schedule. Yukta Ahar Vihara. Very important thing. Very important thing. Yukta Ahar Viharasya Yukta Cheshta Karmasu. This is a very essential verse. We don't know what's the practice of Ashtanga Yoga, so you may not understand, but this is the pivotal verse for Ashtanga Yogis. Ashtanga Yogis, where they're trying to raise their chakra and kundalini and all that, it cannot happen if they don't regulate their diet and sleep. Now we are running 24/7, it's a different thing. We may not have that, but for Ashtanga is very compulsory. So at least if not, we should try to control our timings of prasadam, which means 2 times, 3 times, not multiply 2 into 3. नो 6 times. कि जब भी मन आया खाते पीते चले. ठीक है. Fine. Next paragraph are the urges of genitals. Nitai Pranpro, you want to read now? If in case you're in a situation to read.
Should I start, Prabhu?
You gotta be a little louder.
Is it better?
Yes.
In a similar manner, the urges of the genitals, the sex impulses, can be controlled when not used unnecessarily. The genitals should be used to beget a Krishna conscious child. Otherwise, they should not be used. The Krishna conscious movement encourages marriage not for the satisfaction of the genitals, but for the begetting of the Krishna conscious children. As soon as the children are a little grown up, they are sent to a Gurukul school where they are trained to become fully Krishna conscious devotee. Many such Krishna conscious children are required, and one who is capable of bringing forth Krishna conscious offspring is allowed to utilize the genitals.
See, for somebody who's new, or maybe for practicing devoting, I don't know. But for those who are new, they might find it a little too far out. Hey, what is this? I mean, it's good to read, but to put it into practice may seem a big intellectual gap here. How do we really put into practice? So yesterday, Shamanand Prabhu and myself, we are starting our series. What is that called as? Yeah, podcast. But what is the title of it? I forgot the title. Bhagavad Gita for self growth, like that. So that's our thing. So yesterday we were discussing. We still have 1 or 2 more podcasts to record before we will launch this new Bhagavad Gita podcast. So there, yesterday in our discussion, he was making the point about the military thing, which Prabhupada makes it. But when he made it, it really struck me very strongly. I was like, wow, that makes so sense. And particularly somebody who has been practicing for years together, he joined back in 1988, 89. 89 he joined. This is 23. What do you speak about now? How many years? 10, 20, 30. You're talking about 35 years of special practice. I'm talking an ashram, 35 years. When he said this point, it really struck me very strongly. I say, yeah, this is so nice. It's not that I have not heard it, I have not spoken about it. And the point is, now how do we understand this Prabhupada? Prabhupada is giving a instruction. It is not a suggestion. It is not a recommendation. What is the language if you see here? I'll read out what just Nitai Prabhu read. Just one line. It's the third line of the paragraph. The genitals should be used to beget a Krishna consciousness, otherwise they should not be used. This is not recommendation, suggestion. This is an instruction. And how do you understand the instruction of the order? Just like he was making a point. The point that I just said, that's what he was saying. That, when you are in the army, you're given a gun. It's not that, you can just take a gun and shoot any bullet in any direction. For every single bullet, you're held accountable. So when you are in the enemy line, not enemy line, let's say you are on the LOC, you cannot shoot erratically. You have to be given order. And you have to hold on to your fire until you give an order. You understand this, right? Because one bullet can cause a war. So you are put on alert, but you cannot shoot unless the colonel or whatever the hierarchy, I don't know, gives an order. And when the order comes, shoot, you shoot. And the order comes, stop, you stop. So he was making a point. I was reflecting in Bhagavad Gita, and one of the purpose says Krishna conscious training is like military training. That's the first thing. Now, second part. Now, why we should do it? When Krishna says, do it. When Krishna stop. Why we should do it? Now, the point why we should do it, Mamai Vamsa Jiva Loka Jivbhuta Sanatana. Krishna is the master controller. Krishna is known as Rishikesh. Actually, the discussion yesterday was on Rishikesh word. So, Rishikesh means the one who is the master of our senses. There are so many verses that actually tells, Krishna is the controller, Krishna is the master, Krishna is the proprietor. So our body, senses, everything belongs to Krishna. Just like the AK-47 and the bullets belong to the government. And when the government, let's say the commander, whoever in charge, gives an order, you shoot. Similarly, this body and the senses belongs to Krishna. So we utilize it in engagement with material nature as dictated by Guru Sadhu Shastra. And when it is not dictated, we don't engage it. Then it becomes a proper utilization of our body and senses. I feel sad for myself that we got to know of this so late. Actually, this is something which we should be taught from our childhood. Imagine what would be our situation now if we were trained in that way. Our mind would have got that much amount of self-control. Isn't it a lot of self-control needed in the military also? In the army also, you can see an enemy standing right in front of you, but you have not been given order to shoot. And you're saying, "Arey, what are you doing? The enemy is right there." Imagine there will be many situations like this, but you cannot shoot. Imagine it could be a situation where the enemy has shot at you. Let's say your friend has got injured, but yet you have not got an instruction to shoot. You're asking, "Can I? Can I?" No. Wait. So how much self-control is needed? But once the order comes, you do it. So for that reason, I was thinking, wow, military training is really helpful actually. Jo bola, so karo. And kuch bhi karo, to court martial. And that's the thing. So that's how Srila Prabhupada in that mood is giving an instruction. So genitals should be used to beget a Krishna conscious child, otherwise they should not be used. And Prabhupada has all the right. His guru, his sadhu, and he's saying on the strength of Shastra. So what are we supposed to do and how we are supposed to use our senses? That's it. Now, why we find it difficult? Because we are not trained. We are not trained to follow Guru Sadhu Shastra. Therefore, we find it difficult. Just like anyone who joins an army, in the beginning, he is not trained to hear anyone. He is given a training to follow orders. The training is to follow orders. Now, if somebody asks me, I am an engineer. I was an engineer, maybe engineer. I'm still an engineer. I'm a cultural engineer now. From electrical engineer, my branch have changed. We are doing cultural engineering. Now, think about it. If somebody asks me, what did you learn in 4 years of engineering? My answer is slavery. What did I learn in 4 years of engineering? Slavery. Yes or no? How to spend night outs, how to work on extra on weekends, meet the deadline. And what is the work your engineers are doing? Copy paste. अभी तो वो भी आ गया चैट जीपीटी. अभी तो वो भी नहीं करना पड़ता. कॉपी पेस्ट की बुद्धि लगानी नहीं पड़ती. उसके लिए बैठे बैठे स्लॉग करते रहो. Is it slavery or not? So there is a training. If you see, you have been trained in certain things. Now don't shy away from taking training in spiritual culture. Now don't revolt when the training comes, because without training we cannot make progress. So that's the point here. And when you get training, when our mind and senses have come under control, then following this is not a difficulty. Otherwise, oh my goodness, a very big challenge. All right, next, anyone else? Mother Sadhya will ask you. Would like to read next two paragraphs? Go ahead.
When one practices in the methods of Krishna conscious control, he can become qualified to be a bona fide spiritual master.
All right. Here ends Srila Prabhupada's commentary upon how to control the urge to speak about Krishna, how to control the mind. Mind, Prabhupada have not much spoken about here. The point about mind, Prabhupada mentioned, if you remember Krishna, then mind will not be distracted. Then how to control Krodha, engage in the service, dovetail, Jiva, eat Krishna Prasadam, only scheduled times, and Udar, belly, that's how urges of belly and tongue are taken care, and genitals, only use it for the purpose of begetting Krishna conscious child. This is what Prabhupada said for 6 urges, right? Now the purport continues. Why purport continues? Now Prabhupada is quoting the commentary of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Similarly, Bhaktivinoda Thakur have also written about it. That, because Prabhupada has not mentioned here, so I will not read it. That's Bhakti Alok. That will read it and speak from it in our Bhakti Shastri discussion. That's the detail. Please go ahead, read the next paragraph.
In his Anuvriti explanation of Updeshamrita, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes that our material identification creates 3 kinds of urges: the urge to speak, the urge or demands of the mind, and the demands of the body. When a living entity falls victim to these 3 types of urges, his life becomes inauspicious. One who practices resisting these demands of urges is called tapasvi, or one who practices austerities. By such tapasya, one can overcome victimization by the material energy, the external potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
So, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes that the more one identifies with the material nature or with the body, the more would be tormented by these 3 urges: urge to speak, demands of the mind, and demands of the body. Body means tongue to eat, belly, and genitals. So somebody is too much disturbed and agitated is because he identifies a lot with the body. Very interesting analysis. It's for self-introspection. If we are mental, which means you are identifying too much with the body, you are identifying too much with the material nature. Therefore, for a brahmachari it is mentioned, now brahmachari does not have wife, does not have a child, does not have a wealth or any possession. But he has something which is far much more dangerous than a grahastha has. Now, grahastha, he has to spend some time with the family, with his boss, managing his wealth. Like that, his time goes away in taking care of things and taking care of one's own health. But in case of brahmachari, he has none of these, but he has one thing. And now he is spending his time 24/7 that one thing. That what is that one thing? The mind becomes his wife, the mind becomes his child, mind becomes his bank account, mind becomes his manager, everything. So if it is not seen in a proper light, and if brahmachari ashram is not taken in proper perspective, the fellow will become a mental case. I'm not going to mince my words here. Let me tell you this straightforward. The individual will become a mental case. ISKCON has a history of producing mental cases. Not that we intended to produce mental cases, but the individual did not take. Therefore, for a brahmachari, he should eat together, he should do sadhana together, at least in your training phase. There never ever should be a time when you do things by yourself. Recently, I was making a point in our PDC new batch training, why the concept of brahmacharya class, why His Holiness Radhanath started. So I was giving the analysis for it, why it is. So those of you who go in your own time for eating, stop it. Those who think I will read and hear by myself, stop it. Those who think if there is an online class, I'll separately sit and hear it, stop it. Otherwise, you are going to become a mental case. You're destroying yourself. Because mind always says, मैं कर लेता हूँ कुछ, मैं ये कर लेता हूँ. If there is no facility, then it's a different question. If the facility is created, if an ashram setup is created, you have been given a room, you have been given a hall, you have been given a proper time, everything, then you cannot make such excuses. A brahmachari cannot relate with a fellow brahmachari, cannot stay together brahmachari, then what will he do? Think about it, what he'll be doing. He'll be only spending time with his mind. He'll be only spending time with his mind. There is no Guru Sadhu Shastra for him. So take care of it. So here it is mentioned, one who practices resisting these demands are just called tapasvi. By such tapasya then comes blessings. One can overcome victimization by the material energy. All right. Now the next. Anyone else would like to read it? When we refer to the urge to speak. Hare Krishna. Ravi Prabhu, go ahead. Where are you? Your hand I saw. Mother Rashmi, I saw your hand. I'll call you next. Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Hare Krishna Prabhuji. When we refer to the urge to speak, we refer to useless talking, such as that of the impersonalist, Mayavadi philosophers, or of persons engaged in fruitive activities, technically called karmakand, or of materialistic people who simply want to enjoy life without restriction.
Okay.
All such tasks.
Yeah. I just want to hear what does it these kind of talks means. So three kind of conversation are mentioned. One of Mayavadi, one is of fruitive worker, third is of materialistic person. I want to see if you understand these points or not. What would Mayavadi talk about? Aham Brahmasmi. Om Tas, not Om Tas, what is that? Aham Tvam Asmi. I am that, I am that. Like that, all nonsense. Word jugglery. We have many on the YouTube today who talk all this nonsense. First, okay. I don't want to name it. Now, second, what would be the talk of a fruitive worker? मेरा काम कैसा चल रहा है, मैं प्रगति कैसे करूं, मैं आईटी जॉब में आगे कैसे बढ़ूं. This is all useless talk. Now, of course, all of you are engineers, so you definitely would think it's not, you can stop it, but there should be a time for everything. When you are sitting in Bhagavatam class, your mind should be attentive for Bhagavatam class. When you're doing your office work, that time you can do it, but not outside the hours. Then you're doing atyahara, priyashas. And foremost, when you're in yatra, let me prepare your conscience for yatra now. When you're in yatra, you should jip it up, nothing speaking. If you speak, help raise others' consciousness, not bring the other person conscious down. No discussion on office life. That is of the person engaged in fruitive activity, technically called as karma kanda. Nothing about it. Now, the third conversation is of a materialist people who want to enjoy life without restriction. आज मेनू क्या है? आज क्या मिलेगा लंच में, डिनर में, कल का मेनू क्या है. Yeah, yatra is known for nice prasadam also, no doubt about it. But that should not just boil down to it. Because if it boils down to it, you expected gulab jamun, you got simply wonderful. You're gonna be really, really disappointed. Gulab jamun is a juicy, simply wonderful is a hard, what do you say, milk powder ka bana hua simple sweet. So, so getting too much conscious about it. So, enjoyment spirit. Enjoyment spirit. So be careful. So if you see, what a person speak, you can understand in what these three categories. These are three categories. Either your conversation would be of a Mayavadi level, your conversation would be of a fruitive worker, your conversation would be of a bhogi. These are the three things where the conversation. Now I would say when you go and meet people outside, see, you will be very easy to put them into a box. Okay, Mayavadi itna. Usko bol ke mat aa jana. Oye bhogi, ye sab mat bolna. This is, I'm talking about introspection and analysis. Do that way. Not that you do that. And you'll see that even when you talk to your parents. The problem is not with parents. The problem is if you're not Krishna conscious, you cannot have any conversation out of these three. And foremost, the last two. And the most of it is the last one. The most of it is the last one. Then the second. The third conversation would happen when you go in dhoti, kurta. When you would travel in dhoti kurta, then people will catch you and speak about I am God, you are God, all that. Otherwise, people don't speak about God also. Yes or no? But when you look like a Hare Krishna devotee or you look like a sadhu, then people will catch you. And the first type of Prajalpa begin. That's the point I mentioned. Okay, somebody was reading, right? Ravi Prabhu, go ahead.
All such talks or literatures are practical exhibitions of the urge to speak. Many people are talking nonsensically and writing volumes of useless books. And all this is the result of the urge to speak. To counteract this tendency, we have to divert our talking to the subject of Krishna. This is
All right.
explained in Srimad Bhagavatam.
This is at the time when Prabhupada wrote a commentary when there was no Twitter, no WhatsApp, no Facebook wall. And Instagram also. I have no idea about Instagram. And some Twilo Pilo is also there. And Snapchat and all that, so many things. Imagine if these things had to be there at the time of Prabhupada. प्रभुपाद के समय पे केवल एक फ़ोन था जो बजता था. प्रभुपाद के लिए फ़ोन लगाया गया और रात को 12:30 बजे बजा. प्रभुपाद ने बोला ये कौन वेम्पायर की औलाद है जो रात को 12:30 बजे मुझे कॉल कर रहा है. प्रभुपाद जी लिफ्टेड द फोन. यस, दिस इज AC Bhaktivedanta Swami. प्रभुपाद, हाउ आर यू प्रभुपाद? 12:30 बजे फोन करके पूछ रहा है मैं कैसा हूँ. Prabhupada got so frustrated. Who said you nonsense? You called me at 12:30 in the night to ask you how am I? Prabhupada disconnected the line, called his assistant next day. Take this demon out of my room. निकालो इसको बाहर. इसको नहीं रखने का. It's so amazing, so amazing. The capacity of a pure devotee. Prabhupada ran this whole institution without a phone call. Isn't that? Prabhupada ran the whole institution without a phone call. Through telegram. Amazing. We can't even think of it today. But it's an amazing thing. All right. This is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.5.10, 11. Very beautiful verses. Please repeat. Naya vachachitra padam hare yasho. भाई ब्रेकफास्ट मिलेगा, जोर से बोलो. तुम थके आ रहे 70 साल के बुड्ढे जैसे लग रहे हो, जैसे खाना पीना नहीं मिलता. नाय वचश्चित्र पदम हरे यशो जगत पवित्रम प्रगणित करच तद्वाय संतीतमुशन्ति मानसा नायत्र हंसा निरमन्ति शिक्षया नायद वचस चित्र पदम हरे यशो. वचस मीन्स वचन. जो भगवान की यश की गुणगान नहीं करते हो. नायद वचस चित्र पदम हरे यशो जगत पवित्रम प्रगणित करचित. भगवान का गुणगान जो जगत को पवित्र कर सकता हो, परंतु ऐसे वचन बोले गए जहाँ भगवान का गुणगान ना होता हो. तद्वाय संतीतम उसंति मानसाहा. तद्वायसम, वायसम मीन्स क्रोस. सो तद्वायसम तीतम, ऐसा संग जो होता है जहाँ पे कृष्ण कॉन्शियस या भगवान के गुणगान की चर्चा ना हो, ऐसा संग कहाँ होता है, किसके लिए होता है? जिनकी मेंटालिटी कौवे जैसी होती है. कौवा का क्या स्पेशलिटी है? Why Nadmani said कौवा? Cow, 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 cow. That is कौवा. Non-stop prajalpa and irritating prajalpa. You know, ऐसे Sukdev Naradmuni could have said sparrow also. So, sounds sweet, na? But said कौवा. Second thing quality of कौवा is, what is the second quality of कौवा? Always you'll find in a garbage can. Yes? You'll find it near the garbage can. These are कौवा mentality. ना यत्र हमसा निर्मति ना यत्र हमसा. हमसा मतलब स्वान. जो स्वान लाइक भक्त होते हैं वो ऐसे संग में कभी भी रंग नहीं पाते. That's the point here. Then तद्वाग विसर्गो जनताग विप्लवो यस्मिन् प्रतिश्लोकम् अवधावति अपि नामानिनन्तस्य शङ्कितानि शृण्वन्ति गायन्ति गृह्णन्ति साधवा. तद्वाग विसर्ग. विसर्ग का मतलब होता है क्रिएशन. तद्वाग, तद मीन्स दैट, वाग मीन्स यू कैन से वचन और डिक्शनरी और वर्ड्स. Tadvag visarga janatag viplavo. On the other hand, if the words which are used in the glorification of the Lord, if they are spoken, janatag viplavo, जनता के बीच में आग लगा सकते हैं. How many of you कि तुम्हारे जीवन में भी आग लग चुकी है? और उस अग्नि में क्या जल रहा है? तुम्हारी भौतिक इच्छाएं. भौतिक इच्छाओं का राख हो रहा है ना? तुम्हारे जीवन में हर एक, how many of you had that actually an experience that you know, मेरे जीवन में आग लगा के रखी हुई हरे कृष्ण भक्तों ने. ये मत करो, वो मत करो, मेरी पैंट शर्ट भी उतार के धोती पहना दी अब तो. This is what जनताग विप्लव, आग लगा दी. यस्मिन् प्रतिश्लोकम अवधावति अपि. यस्मिन् प्रतिश्लोकम अवधावति. Even if तद्वाग विसर्गा, वो जो कंपोजिशन है, even if it is not perfect, it has enough fire potency, it can set your life on fire. नामानि नन्तस्य शङ्कितानि यत् शृण्वन्ति गायन्ति गृह्णन्ति साधवा. Sadhu, sadhava, sadhavi. So which means a saintly person, a gentleman. Nonetheless, namani anantasya yashankitani yat will always hear to the yasha, the glories of the Lord. Shanavanti, sunega, gayanti, gaega, grananti, would accept whatever has been spoken, like that. So beautiful. The conclusion. Who was reading it? Ravi Prabhu, were you reading it, right? Read the next paragraph.
Yeah.
Conclusion.
Yeah. The conclusion is that only when we talk about devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead can we refrain from useless nonsensical talk. We should always endeavor to use our speaking power solely for the purpose of realizing Krishna consciousness.
Hare Krishna. So with that conclusion, we'll also pause here for today because it's 8:30. So now the discussion will come upon mind. That will take it when we meet. So next week, tomorrow is Sunday. I'll have another program, so we'll not have class tomorrow. But for the next week, we'll have program from Monday to Friday. And Friday, after the class, I leave for our summer yatra. And then for next 2 weeks, there won't be any program. So at least for the coming week, we'll meet Monday to Friday. We'll do that way. So we'll be able to cover this, complete this verse, and we'll be able to take the second verse. Atyahara Priyasha Prajalpa Niyamagraha. Okay, so before we pause here, anyone would like to add to our discussion for today? Any comments, any reflections, any life experience, or has any clarification to sort? Anything? Yes, Dhananjay Prabhu. Go ahead. Yeah. So what's the difference in a karma kandi talk and a bhogi talk? How it is? So the second talk means the person is always about, too much about his prayas, the job, effort. मुझे जीवन में ये करना है, मुझे वो करना है, which we'll read about in prayashas, action oriented, like this. And the third is talk about, just like, when you meet with your friends and family members, generally talk is about, family members, kiske ghar mein kya ho gaya, the movies and like that. But simultaneously, when you meet your college mates, who are into this career consciousness. Then you'll have a talk about profession. Kaise aage badh? That's where the distinction has been made, like that. There are two kinds of. Now you call it, you can call bhogi. Karmakandi is also bhogi, but the difference is made for us to understand it. So when things are broken into pieces, just to make us a little more digestible, like that. Okay. Anything from the online audience? We can take the questions here offline afterwards. If in case anything online, we'll take it. If not, so it looks like everyone. Yes, Nitai Pranpu, go ahead.
Yeah. Can you hear me, Prabhu, properly?
Yes.
Yeah. Prabhu, since it's been written over here to urge the speech, now this principle comes to the preaching as well. Now here in West, since we don't have that kind of liberty or the association of such senior, well, they are all senior over here as well, but when it's come to the preaching,
Training
compared to
is
India,
missing.
it's very limited. And many a times, even someone who is like me, who has such a little understanding of the scriptures, go and preach to the others. So when it's come to control the urges of the speech, what a preacher should actually be taken care of.
Yeah, very, very important question. Operation successful, patient dead. You know, our preaching should not have that goal. I spoke the truth, Prabhu. And the quality of my truth was the absolute truth was driven away. The fellow will never come back to Krishna consciousness. So these are some of the pitfalls. So for that, again, regarding the audience type we are dealing with, there has to be a training. Because for every audience type, there are certain sensitivities that we need to be aware of. That's why we talk about the Western audience right now. The Western audience, you really can't speak about God and Lord. These kind of words are too highly unpalatable right now over there. Or we can talk about supreme consciousness, the universal consciousness. So they attune themselves more to universal brotherhood concept. So they would hear that. But when it comes to God, demon, demoniac, this will not work well with them. So of course, this subject matter, this has to be, we learn this two ways, by committing accidents, which means mistakes, and second, by assisting another senior devotee, and through him, observing him, we learn. Therefore, we should never ever take this. In fact, it is extremely important that anyone and every one of us should render the service of assisting somebody for a certain time. Because once you take up the service, then you learn the tricks of the game. Tricks of the game of how to deal with people, everything cannot be taught in class. And you cannot even understand from the book. You can only understand being in the very close proximity of a devotee and seeing him and observing him, how he does it. And those who are into that zone, and if they fall asleep during the class, what a sorry state. It is a time for you to learn now how this devotee, or an experienced devotee, how does he deal? How does he answer? So through that we pick up. So in other words, those who have a great sense of observation, they'll pick it up very quickly. And those who are a little dull-headed, sorry to say that way, but those who are a little distracted, they have mental chatting is going on. Whatever training you give, it's very difficult for them to really pick it up. So this, what to speak, not to speak, how to speak is a very sensitive subject matter and particular audience. All of us have gone to Mayapur, I'm pretty sure. So not now, but imagine, I remember a few years before, let's say pre-COVID eras, when the Mangalati would end, around 5:30, 5:40 around, then right in Radha Madhav's temple hall, there would be a japa program. अरे क्या धासु क्लास देते थे वो, उनको कुत्ता बिल्ली गधा क्या 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 नहीं बोलते थे ऑडियंस को वहाँ पर. It was used to be such a blunt, straight talk like this. करके जपा नहीं करोगे तो अगले दिन कुत्ता बन जाओगे, बिल्ली बन जाओगे, गधा बन जाओगे, पता नहीं क्या क्या करके, direct. You cannot even think, imagine I using that language in Hinjawadi, today evening program. Chant Hare Krishna, otherwise you become a dog. पता लगा he becomes a dog lover. से अच्छा बहुत अच्छी बात है, चपानी करूँगा कुत्ता बन जाऊँगा. So you cannot just pick up the Mayapur model and bring it here. Because the people are innocent there, and they come from, they have a lot of faith, and their training is of like chastisement kind of a thing. So this is just, we have to be. And therefore, the experienced teachers, They're very valuable actually. They know on which kind of audience what to speak, how to speak, and yet not to hurt anyone's feeling, yet very sensitively communicate the message, not dilute. And for me, my role model is His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj, frankly speaking. For me, I mean, you give him any audience, he nails it. He's just like a Paramatma reading what's happening in the hearts of everyone, what they want to hear. See Prabhupada. Of course, I'm just saying for me. For me, I say His Holiness Devamit Maharaj, His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj. These are my favorite speakers for that reason. And fantastic. They just nail any and every audience. Of course, there are many, but I'm just saying about for me, And if in case for me, I learn most of the things from these two speakers largely. And this is who I hear often. So any thought process that I have built up or whatever I'm trying to speak largely has come from these two speakers. Who I often now I'm unfortunately not able to hear that much, but yeah. So again, किससे सुन रहे हो आप? That also affect a lot. Like this.
So that's even bring up this point, which we even touch in our Bhakti Shastri class, that we have to be loyal to our speakers. We should not be someone who is being just doing a window shopping. That today I'll listen to so and so speaker, tomorrow I'm listening to someone else. So.
Well, not exactly. I don't mean that way. Not that. I learned this principle from my senior, from my mentor, who taught me, we should learn from many, but follow one. There cannot be any one person who can be a don in everything. Ultimately, don is devotee of Lord Nandan, or what do you say, Nanda Gopal, like that. You want to say. Point is, there cannot be any one person who can be don in every field. But if you want to really grow your service, then you should learn from different devotees. But you should have one person who you follow. One person follow means, what I mean by follow is military rule. One person follow is military rule. Bol diya, chup, no question asked. You can clarify if there is a, but jo bola wo karne ka hai. So there are certain relationships we have to have in our life. Otherwise, at the end of the day, if you see, we just still keep following our mind. Okay, I can empathize for that reason. For Grihasthas, they may or may not have that. I'm talking for Brahmacharis, this is our life. We need to have it. For Grihasthas, they may have their own scope of freedom, they can have that. So I don't want to put anyone in a little bit of insecurity and discomfort. But Brahmachari life is all about this. If I speak on the Brahmachari concept, there has to be one person, kuch bhi ho jaye, jo bola karne ka. So you have to invest in a relationship. That relationship should be. So that person you should definitely hear. That's a main guiding compass, you can say. And then there are other devotees we learn. Somebody could be expert in accounting. Somebody could be expert in management. Somebody could be expert in shastras. We hear from them to improve the quality of our service. And in general advices, you can hear Bhagavatam classes. But we should not hear any and every class which is coming on YouTube, because you may not be the right audience. Bhagavatam is pure Bhagavatam. Therefore, we have a very clear set of instructions how Bhagavatam class should be delivered. What should be the content of Bhagavatam? What should be spoken? What should not be spoken? At Pune, we have devised a whole almost 20 set of instructions. What should be done, not to be done, like that. So that what you speak becomes universally accepted, which means any devotee can pick it and hear it, and he becomes Krishna conscious. That should be the objective of Bhagavatam class. Not that, you are taking out your frustration on the management, or you're taking out frustration on fellow devotees, or on the ashram. Sometimes, unfortunately, people talk about ashram. They criticize one ashram to another ashram. And this is not Brahmachari forum. This is not Bhagavatam forum. It could be an Agrahastha counselor meeting, Brahmachari counselor meeting. There you can have your private discussions. Bhagavatam, when Sukdev Goswami spoke, everyone heard. And the inquiries of Parikshit Maharaj were made for the purpose so that everyone understands it. So Bhagavatam is our public address. So I just wanted to bring both the sides. You hear from different, who you feel they're dons, from whom you find inspiration, follow one, and then the other thing which you can always hear is Bhagavatam classes. Like that. All right. I mean, this is a subject matter going to be too many things. We are just kind of reading right now. We'll get into more details when we go into this, our Bhakti Shastri. This is a profound subject matter. So thank you, Nityay Prabhu. All right, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu.
So we should close here for today. Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki, Srila Rupa Goswami ki, Upadeshamrita ki.